Good morning, all of you. Welcome to another episode of Young Science Leader Series. This on 19th July 2020. Today with us, Dr. Manju Jain, who is very active in our earlier workshop as well. She has moderated many sessions, and she is also very much involved with our internship. She is guiding 13 interns. She has committed, and the process is going on. I learned this morning. So Dr. Jain is an assistant professor at Department of Biochemistry in Central University of Punjab. She is my colleague. She did BA microbiology from Delhi University and PhD in molecular parasitology from Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. And after that, she did postdoctoral fellowship at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Texas, USA, in the area of thymus biology. So she has been working there for 5 years before coming back here to accept our offer in our Central University of Punjab. The present area of research is understanding disease associated with T cell abnormalities and presently focusing on infectious and autoimmune diseases. So the field is really, really relevant these days in this. And she's also involved with promoting immunology as a career path and life member of Indian Immunological Society. And she's also a past member of the American Association for the Immunologist and trainee award from AAI, American Association for Immunology and so on. And she's also very much involved with science communication and so many extracurricular activities that, she's actually a very good teacher, I would say. And thank you so much, Dr. Manju, to come here in our Young Science Leader series. We are really excited to have you here with us. And along with me, this session is moderated by Dr. Nitin Trivedi. He has already been a YSL. His talk has been fascinating and inspiring to so many people. 2-3 weeks back, last week, he has given his talk. So over to you, Dr. Nitin.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Felix, and good morning to all of you. So we are glad that today we have Dr. Manju Jain with us, and we'll be waiting for her inspiring talk. And with these words, I welcome once again Dr. Manju. Over to Dr. Manju. You can start your presentation.
So before getting on to my presentation, I would like to thank all the participants to be there with a very, very good morning. And I thank Dr. Felix and Dr. Nitin for such a kind introduction of mine. And as it was suggested, the talk will basically be non-technical, intermittently touching on the scientific aspect as, connect us from one component to the other. So with this, I think I can go ahead. I'll just make it full screen. So I'm really thankful to Dr. Felix for creating such a wonderful platform where all of us could actually reflect back, on the journey we have taken so far. And in fact, it became a good, window to be grateful to all those who contributed in their own small and big ways towards making us what we are today. So getting on to little bit into my background. I grew up as the youngest, among siblings, 8 siblings. I'm the youngest, basically in an average middle class business family, where, the men will majorly be focused on strengthening the business component, while the female of the house will be good homemakers. So in that context, I was sort of seemingly destined to be one among those. But then I guess I wanted more from life. As such, my family has a very open mindset, but it was just that, the education academics was just not a priority in the list. So with that sort of background, I started my schooling at one of the the best school in our near neighborhood. I was quite a self-motivated student, doing good, mostly, among the top 2 or 3 like that. And as I went on to school, because I didn't see much going on around in terms of what possibilities I have, what all I can do later in life, how the education I am getting would, take me further. So the outside world really, helped me in that. In context of the peer group learning, I would really emphasize at each and every stage of my, academics and career building. Peer group learning is a great thing. I would interact with, children from different sort of families. They have different aspirations. I would try to align as to, what I would like to go ahead with further. So all those kind of things really added on to my aspiration to, create a niche for myself, different from what was going on, in my family. And definitely I took my family into confidence. I would pick up the things from my outside interactions, get back to my family, create a feedback loop kind of thing. And definitely there were people who would, work as a support poles for me. uh, you need somebody, at least few people, in your family to give you a go green signal. So in that context, I would like take this opportunity to be grateful from the bottom of my heart to one of my brothers, second eldest in the family, almost like my father. So he was almost there, and he could sense the things which were boiling, in my head, as to, she wants things to work out differently. He was almost there, up till this stage also. Whenever, I am in some, a dilemma or something, I would just fall back on him and try to move ahead in life. Secondly, I would like to mention my mom. So technically, the word will call her, not able to read and write. She can't do that. But she's the most open-minded, free-spirited woman I have ever seen. She could, flew all alone to US during my tenure there, happily, enjoying the clouds and all. So I she is my another pillar in life, which made me to keep myself on. So with this background, my, the in my immediate surroundings, sometimes, the immediate relatives will come in, and they will put up sentences like, oh, the girl is going out of your hand. My father, he was a man of few words. He's no more. So he would just not, turn back and reply, and would just watch me doing things from a distance. Uh, Although, those kind of negative comments did create a negative connotation to the whole academic pursuit I was getting onto. uh, but still, with the back of my family and my own motivation, I kept doing things, and it came up very nicely in my grades, in my, studies. uh, just small things, which reflect, how openly my family welcomed the kind of self-taken decisions at that young age. So once, my mother was taking me to get, admission in the school, and she would just put up some 2 3 names. Okay, what name you want for yourself? And I would just choose one, just like an MCQ going on there. After 10th, I had to choose my subject. So I will wholeheartedly go and, pick biology. I was doing great almost in every subject, but then biology was something that was fascinating me. So I took up the subject, came home, and okay, I took biology. And they were like, okay, go ahead with it. Never, thinking much beyond my happiness about the whole, exercise. So with this, getting into the school, I would like, I do remember some of my teachers who had a very, very positive impact on the way I thought and carried myself later in life. I would specifically like to mention my Hindi teacher. I think she taught us Hindi in 6th or 7th standard. So teachers of that time, and I'm still in association with her. This is the 2019 picture. Uh, and have really picked a lot of virtues and the way one should operate. In school, I would really, observe her and try to emulate the way she carried herself, the way she spoke. Quite a strict teacher, actually. But then I really liked, the honest intentions behind all her activities. A very focused individual, just, you can see that big red bindi on her forehead, very focused, emanating all the goodness around. So that really impacted me tremendously. So with the interactions going on with her till date, during my PhDs also, while I was pursuing my PhD from JNU Delhi, she was also staying in South Delhi, somewhere near CR Park. So I happened to visit her a few times, and often used to narrate what I was seeing around, in the laboratory culture, the experiences, the things which were going on in making a PhD for me and my friends around. And she would, very wisely tell me that, Manju, you are just, you appear to be a child in this comic tale, The Emperor's New Clothes, where, the emperor and his courtmen would actually pretend that, he's wearing a fancy pretty dress made out of, the golden threads. But then when he went out for the procession, a child, calls on, oh, the king is not wearing anything. So she persuaded me, to maintain this childlike attitude in learning process throughout. And I still remember this and carry it with me. It had a deep impact on me, actually. So the childlike character, as in earlier talks also it was discussed, it's very scientific, right? There are no biases. It is based on evidence. If a child sees, a black color or white color, they will just tell that there are no grays for them. So that's how, with these kind of spirits, I went ahead. Uh, I did my graduation in microbiology honors from Delhi University. Again, the immediate surroundings and the peer group lent me a great learning experience. Uh, we had Dr. Sudha, our biochemistry teacher, really made our concepts clear. I still very, lovingly carry her, the notes made up out of her, classrooms. They are still with me. And since last almost 8 years of teaching on my own, they really helped me. I mean, the concept she has bestowed on me to take up, the biochemistry and very many subjects like metabolism and all in a very, comfortable fashion. So the learnings are coming up a long way. Also, I remember she used to emphasize on, in our experiments, while we will record, that you have to justify, analyze and give a discussion in your own pursuit, the way you think you can justify your experiment. So that was quite, science, that developed a scientific approach in almost every student. And at present, I do ask the same thing from my students, actually. Then we had Dr. Kusum Gupta. She introduced me to the world of immunology. I got into the, world of QB through her. Apart from that, I would mention, while she was teaching us, she was also pursuing her PhD from South Campus. So that sort of gave me an idea. Okay, those are the kind of possibilities, and pick up in near future, once I get through these degree courses. Then we had Dr. Rakesh Gupta. So he's the most enthusiastic teacher I've ever seen in my life. He'll be almost 2 inches above the ground while he used to take our classes. So that was, a great learning experience. Now, from the surroundings, the kind of surroundings I had, definitely my peer group. Shall I continue? Yeah. So the peer group really helped me to go ahead with the things. They will fill up the forms for the master's degree and all. What all colleges are there? What all options are there? I would learn from them. I would follow them up, and I came up with flying colors, having distinction and being a topper in some of the subjects, in my class, and then could actually secure a master's seat in few places, good places like Ambedkar Center for Biomedical Research, the Delhi University as well as the Master's Microbiology and the IIT Roorkee. But then suddenly, I mean, there was a sudden sort of a little pause, which again I would like to mention here. At this point where I had some options in my hand, I think I was doing a lot of overthinking as to how far, with that sort of traditional background, my family would let me go ahead or how well I could do later. Another aspect was that on my home front, I had a special child in my home, my brothers, daughter, my niece. So there was a sudden sort of break, the system crashed down and I was like, okay, I'm going to quit. I quit all the 3 seats, right? And sort of decided that I would get trained myself into, the field of special education and try to contribute towards, my niece and the children like her. But then when I was in a situation, I had left everything, sitting at home trying to contemplate this newer area for myself. My brother again came to my rescue. He was like, a letter came in from IIT Roorkee saying that the students who have not joined can actually join in a new center that was to be started at Allahabad University. So my brother brought in the letter and told me it's the last bet you have. So you got to do it. And he really pushed me into it. I kept his words and went ahead. So technically people can take it, as a sort of spell of depression, I would say, not, a jumbled up thought process. But then I guess I needed to talk out at that time. I needed a good mentoring. Somehow, it was missing. Anyways, so with this kind of, short pause, I happened to join the Master's Biotechnology program at Allahabad University. It was a new department. Ours was the first batch there. And definitely I was first time outside the confines of my home. A lot of cultural differences were there. And I came out, being more open, being more adjusting, resilient, tenacious. I should be mentioning Professor Krishna Mishra, who single-handedly initiated, the start of the department, and basically all the teaching activities were being managed by guest lectures from outside university, and it was a batch of 9 to 10 students, and I was the only girl there. So that was a tremendous change. But then I just went ahead with my foot on. Some of the experiences during this master's program was that I had an opportunity to do my project dissertation at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in the area of NMR, which sort of sounded quite dry to me at that time. But then she was from the chemistry background, our the coordinator, Professor Krishna, and she pushed me. She told, no, you go and you will learn a lot of things, and she was quite true, and I'm glad that I did that. So I got into learning the intricacies of little experimental details, which Neil, I would like to call him by name, as he was doing his PhD, and very good friendly relations. He got me onto some experimental details, while Atreya really made my theoretical concepts clear in the area. During this time, I had the opportunity to attend the regular customary in TIFR, where they will have weekly colloquias and all, and also the great lifetime opportunity to hear to Professor Stephen Hawking, actually, with his speech synthesizer. So that was something out of the world for me. It gave me the exposure to the world level working environment during my master's itself. So with this kind of stuff, another thing during masters I should be mentioning is, again, the interaction with the different kind of people, the peer learning. Two of my batchmates during that time, when they came up, Professor P.J. John, the central person in the picture, he came up to drop them. So he was the teacher of those two students who became, lifelong friends with me. And I befriended Professor John as well. He's a great mentor to me till date. It's almost like 20 years, right? And he's somebody on whom I can fall back anytime for any kind of, dilemma I'm undergoing through. And I think his advice would be the first and the last one I would ever take on making decisions. And it's very apparent from the picture, I seem to be the most happy person on this earth, whenever I'm in his company. So that is something, that talks a lot about the mentor and the mentee relation. So with these beautiful learning experiences and people during masters, I went ahead with my PhD at School of Life Sciences, JNU. I joined with Professor R. Madhubala. She's a big name in her own field, a great science manager, I would say, managing time, getting things done on time. Are some of the peculiarities I need to mention. So learned quite a bit in terms of how the research is carried out, how things work out or don't work out in research. With this little bit on the work I did, in short, I work in the field of molecular parasitology, the parasite being a protozoan parasite, Leishmania. So in Indian context, it is known as Kala Azar or Kala Bukhar, majorly prevalent, in the Bihar Bengal belt. And the ICMR and Indian government is really taking lead in sort of eliminating the disease from India. The deadline was sort of 2015, but still it is on. So with this, in this field, around the time when still it's there, they were not functionally characterized. So my project was related, which gave me skills onto how to manipulate the parasite, making transgenics, knocking out specific genes, and try to see what that specific gene is doing in that particular organism. And some of these gene candidates were also being tried as potential vaccine candidates in murine models. So I acquired the skills into both the molecular as well as the immunological component during my PhD years. So things changed with time. As I had completed my PhD, newer perspectives got added to my life, and they definitely influenced the decisions I took further. So I got married. My family really wanted me to get married before I went off to postdoc, although I was not that keen, because I was all busy in my own world. And they very thoughtfully got me married to the person in the same field. So he is also a scientist. He was already placed in MD Anderson Cancer Center, made a shift from his previous postdoc from Switzerland to Texas. And the moment I got married, I told to myself that I'll give upper hand to my second half. So maybe many of you have watched Professor Subha's lecture on training young girls towards science. So maybe I'm also among those where traditionally we are being imprinted or sort of trained that you need to give an upper hand to your second half, and this is precisely what I did. So I joined back in MD Anderson without any lab in my hand till that time, went there, explored, and got into a lab that sort of interested me because I had worked on Leishmania, even the immunological aspects, the murine model, the vaccine stuff and all that. So there were many questions in my mind, even though I had completed my PhD, how this Th1, Th2 responses are sort of working together and trying to decide protection will happen, not happen, or whatsoever. So here was a lab which was working on more of basic aspects of T cells and the organ where these T cells are generated at the thymus. So the lab area which I joined was like understanding the cellular molecular crosstalk that happens during thymus organogenesis when it is formed, develops, and to maintain the homeostasis in as the whole the complete thymus is formed, how the homeostasis is being maintained. And sort of worked out the role of a STAT3 signaling pathway in thymus homeostasis. Briefly about how, I think some slide thing. Anyways, some shuffling in the slide has happened here. So the way you will cut through, yeah. I'm sorry about it. Anyways, I'll continue. So you can slice, a melon and try to look into the inside structure. Yeah, now it is coming in place. Okay. So if you take the thymus, make slices of it and try to look under the microscope. This is how a thymus slice looks like. You have these red medullas, red color, the light pink medullas, and the dark purple and the green cortex. And these are important microenvironmental niches in a thymus that helps, the progenitor T cells that move from the bone marrow to the thymus to develop, and then they come out in the periphery to carry out their function of defense. So looking at, the thymocytes that develop in the thymus, and the cells that actually make up the thymus, you can imagine, the teaching learning process is there. And there is a constant crosstalk that goes between a learner and the teacher. If either of them are not sending the right kind of signals, the whole process, the learner is affected and the teacher teaching stuff is also affected. So that's how when a T cell is developing, it goes as an immature, progenitor component. It goes inside, acquires some characteristics, matures and gets out. And if the thymic cells and the passengers, the developing cells, they don't interact nicely with each other in the right crosstalk and pathways, it has direct implication on making either the T cell development defective or the thymus development is being affected per se. This one of the picture didn't show up. So this is the paper I got out of my post work, a lot of hard work since it's animal model, prone to a lot of variabilities every time, and not wasting much time on the scientific details. Ellen Ritchie was my postdoc mentor, a great human being, I would say. I resonate very well with her, both in science and life per se, irrespective of whatever cultural boundaries we had. And definitely she is somebody who made me to hang on, because in my postdoc tenure things were changing, and I became a mom. I was not ready to leave my child at least for a year or so in daycare. So that way, she, along with my husband's, mentor, chalked out the schedule for us, and we started working on shift basis. So that way, she was very sensitive to how I took things, at my home front, and sort of gave me workable solutions. The association with her continues till date. Recently in 2017, I met her in a Thymus conference, and it was really encouraging when, during the end of her talk, she mentioned that some of the pictures actually I had put are missing somehow. Anyways, so she mentioned that one of my former postdoc is there to present her work, and I suggest that you go through the interesting piece of work she has carried here. So that was really like telling a lot about what kind of mentor and person she is. During this my entire time of doing a PhD, postdoctoral work experience and all, some of the stuff I would like to bring onto this platform is like the importance of peer learning. It's extremely crucial in a lab environment, and otherwise you learn a lot as to how things are being done, how things are being perceived, what is the right kind of way to carry things, what all mistakes can happen, which you can sort of try to prevent in your experiments, in your analysis, and so on and so forth. Then another thing, about the data and the way people carry out their experiments, which we know it happens, but then we really don't talk much about all this, but I think I would just touch upon it. I do have witnessed, the theory of golden hands, where, a student is being told, oh, you get, the right kind of results all the time, as if having, the golden set of hands. But then the the student behind you, and you are not just good enough to do that. I think that is really a non-scientific approach in a scientific pursuit, and it should be really dissuaded. uh, there can be differences in how meticulously one is carrying out the experiments, but definitely it cannot be judged by a pair of hands. Talking about the perfect data. So in science, we hypothesize, we have a hypothesis, we generate a hypothesis and we try to prove that it is correct, but then it may turn out the other way around, and that works out perfectly. In medical profession, you cannot afford to go wrong any single time. But in our research, you have a hypothesis and the results are supporting that it is working. Otherwise, it's perfectly fine. It will just imply that you just had a difficult problem in your hand. So nothing to worry about it. Coming to the data stuff. So it's really important to have, you need to emphasize on the pattern. You need to have a repeatable pattern in whatever you are doing. We should not be really worrying about the perfect data, the perfect points, the beautiful data. If you really are able to analyze and put make sense out of the things you are doing in a repeatable fashion, a pattern, you can derive a pattern, you are all good to go ahead. And definitely the outliers will be important. So why a particular data point, say it can be an experiment on an animal or a human, why it's an outlier? Is there any way you can justify it going into the history or the way that animal behaved, or the the patient details and all those stuff? And all this becomes all the important in context of experiments which are being carried out in animals and in human subjects per se, because definitely there'll be a lot of diversity. So I think I'm delivering my point. So we need to look for patterns rather than, the perfect, tight, compact data points. Now the next phase of the things where, we plan to move back from US back to India, majorly because of, family reasons. I had grown into a joint family, big family system. I was homesick, and then I really wanted my daughter, to know people in my family, in my husband's family, and all those were the reasons. Although my, postdoc guide Ellen was really happy to keep us extended. In fact, when I was returning back, she told me, okay, you get somebody from India who can take your place. So that was really admirable of her to have that kind of conviction on me. So sometime in mid-June 2012, we moved back, and that time my husband had got the Ramanujan Fellowship. And while returning, what I was having in my hand was, a position in Novartis, Hyderabad. And I had gone in for a scientific writer post. So that sort of really interested me. I thought it will be a good, refreshing break for me from the regular bench work, and then I can take better care of my kid. So with those thoughts, I got into it, but then my husband was not so much interested in moving on to south side. So keeping his things online, he joined, IITR in Lucknow as a Ramanujan Fellow. I followed him there. There was a scientist position in SGPGI Lucknow in hematology department, cell division. Again, there, Professor Sonia Nityanand, with whom I got associated, she was working on mesenchymal epithelial transitions and stem cells. So that sort of fascinated me, because at that particular time point, people were looking onto, the immune stem cells, the thymic stem cells. So I thought I can create some great projects there. But then we were hardly there for a month or two. Lucknow seemed sort of too crowded, for us. In between, there were offers from JP University of Information Technology from Himachal. We just, happened to visit it, both me and my husband, having a look at to how things look there. And we just like, the ambience, the environment, the peacefulness there. And without, the government private sector bias in our mind, we quit our government stuff and joined in Himachal. So I was there almost for around like 3.5 years or so. mid 2015, my husband planned to shift to a government organization that he shifted back to Central University of Punjab. Basically, observing the trend around private universities are not being taken, in the right stand till date. I guess that's how it operates in India up till now. So now I had to again made a change, but then I was like, how to do it? So I stepped down from the assistant professor position in JP to a DST sub, project fellow. Joined at Central University of Punjab in a different department here. By the time, I generated a project in JP Solan and started, having my fellowship from there. So this was a very tricky, timeline for me, situation for me. I've worked almost for a year or so as DST sub fellow in Department of Microbiology and Biochemistry, and then there were positions out in the university. I was working on my project with full vigor and energy. There was an interview call. On the day of the interview, as such, I had to go for this, conference in Japan, based on whatever we had worked out in a project. Morning I gave the interview and headed towards attending this conference, and finally I heard that the decision was in my favor. I was selected at the post of assistant professor at Central University of Punjab. But then definitely I was in a tricky situation. My project was about to get over sometime in August 2017, and the interviews were there in March. If it wouldn't have worked out, I would have been, sort of outside the system, or I would have to look outside, Bhatinda. Again, the family things were coming to my mind as to how to manage. Although sort of I was quite confident that I will get something within Bhatinda, great. If not, I had to move outside. That would have really disturbed my family, which I never wanted. So with this kind of stuff, I am continuing at Central University of Punjab up till now, and plans to continue as we are sort of both well settled here. I would like to bring up the perception, as I was trying to bind up my family together and trying to move, with my second half happens to be in the same field. Some people would often, tell me, you are just the lucky one, overlooking the efforts which I always put behind, to sort of deserve a particular position. At times I was also hearing, I had that feeling as if, I'm taken up as a bonus point. So me and my husband, we work in sort of different areas. I'm inclined towards immunology. He is into cancer biology. Although we do have some overlaps where we do, sort of work together on and off, but definitely we have clear-cut niches of our own in context of our research areas. Many times people would suggest, oh, why to get so much into it? You can just add on to the stuff, the cancer biology, get into cancer biology and make your life easier. So those are the things which are being taken up specifically, for a woman scientist. I guess maybe many others are coming across this kind of thinking around. Again, projecting some of the people from whom I got all the positive vibes all the time. On the left there, Professor Natrajan, Professor Goswami. They had their offices in the same, level. I was working during my PhD. Dr. Natrajan would come, late after dinner, and I see him working hard. Professor Goswami, whenever I would approach his lab, he would just let me in by walking out, sort of subtly saying, oh, you please go ahead with your work. Then Professor Kak, the former VC Solan, again a great personality and mentor, I would say. believing in the kind of work you are doing. So I had started my first project there. Definitely with the kind of work I was carrying out, the mouse model and all that stuff, it took some time. I had to refurbish and make the operational mouse house there. So it was taking me time to sort of produce things in terms of papers and all. In one of the promotional interviews, I was asked, oh, so we don't see any paper on your CV for the time you were here. You have been working in JP, and I very very clear cut, straightforward tone, I would say, oh, I'm just setting up the requisite stuff I need to get onto my research. So that won't be possible right away. And then at Central University of Punjab, as I joined as a DST sub fellow, I had Professor Ramakrishna Huzirika as my HOD that time. And I think the most open and fair person to whom I would approach with every small and big, thing with which I will often get stuck up. He really facilitated the way, I could operate my project as a DST sub fellow, as well as later on, as a regular appointee in the university. One of the important things which I would like to touch upon specifically for the young investigators and also the students, the PhD students, often this question comes in as to how did you pick up a particular project to work? How did you pick a particular gene or a protein? So I believe there's a small or short story behind every project. See, when I was a PhD student, I went to join the lab. I would, being very naive, in the initial years, I would just ask my professor, how did you get onto leishmania? In my postdoc, I would ask Ellen, why is it that we were just focusing on STAT3 signaling pathway in context of thymus? So those questions are very genuine and naive and to be addressed. So I thought I would just make a very short touch upon as to what kind of projects I'm pursuing and why I'm pursuing. So by the end of my postdoc, I had a fairly good training in, the intricacies of the thymus, how the T cells are formed there. They need to be hale and hearty when they come outside in circulation to take care of the cell-mediated immunity. So if it gets disturbed, the crosstalk gets disturbed, it can lead to different kind of disease abnormalities. And there can be different classes that could have interested me to start a project: the infectious disease, autoimmune, neuronal diseases, the different pathophysiological conditions, the very a process of aging, the cancers where the cells gets altered. So all those disease categories will definitely involve changes in the T cell component. So those, and I was open to almost every kind of disease when I started thinking, about how to go about building up a project. But then I came across, as I was reading a lot at that time, this review by Wilson Savino, where the thymus, will be affected by different infectious agents, these microorganisms. And in this entire list, I couldn't see leishmania. So I had a working hand on that. So I thought I would, combine the two. There was not a single paper on that aspect when, sort of I was trying to nucleate the project. So I came up with my first project, got sanctioned by DST sub under the fast track fellowship, investigating the role of thymus in mediating host immune modulation in experimental murine visceral model. And I had the limitations of having a fully functional mouse house, the cryosectioning, the flow cytometry, dry eyes, liquid nitrogen. But then I didn't give up. I carried on, and I could actually arrange all those stuff on the top of mountain, in Himachal. And it was a hard work, I would say. I can't afford to go into the details of all those. So out of that project, like one JRF joined with me, Miss Lavlesh Thakur, and she really worked out nicely with me, picking up all the stuff. I had to be on bench teaching her the intricacies of the kind of work I was doing. And I think the work got internationally recognized. in one of the picture. Like here you can see me and my daughter cheering, Lovelish for having the award for her poster. And at this time I would bring about the thing that I was expecting my second baby. This is the time when I just shifted to Central University of Punjab as a DST sub fellow. uh, yeah, start of 2016. So I was about to have my baby in a month or two, second baby. And then after this presentation in Chandigarh, we had to move to JP University to bring the project stuff, the remaining project stuff back, transferring. So I was doing a lot of traveling, even at a time point when I should have gone easy on me. Then coming on like one of the other projects. So while we were working out the first project I mentioned, which required a mouses and all, it took us some time to establish things in the right way. We had a little time in between where we could have actually done other things. I would complain to myself, oh, my work is sort of getting slowed down, because but one of my colleagues in JP itself, in a lift while we were going up, our department was at the fifth department level. So we were often using lift. So he would suggest me, why don't you look into some local problem here in the meantime while you're setting up your stuff for the project you have got. So I was really close to the idea that I would do much in leishmaniasis, because already I did my PhD here. I wanted to explore newer things, but then I gave a second thought to his suggestion, and I think it really worked well. I started reading what all is going around and came across the one or two papers which talked about, leishmaniasis as a disease in Himachal, which I didn't hear any time uh, uh, as a, as a scholar in that field. So that was quite, unique and unusual. I read the papers, some, unusual reports were there where they were saying the species, the Leishmania species that generally causes the systemic form, is causing the cutaneous, the skin-based form there in Himachal. So that was quite intriguing to me. I took up the thing, but getting into the details, I think the data, the sample points were not that concrete to bring about, this kind of conclusion. So I took up this project and we presented our work in one of the conferences organized by, Indian Immunological Society every year. I make it a point to attend that conference mostly. From 2015 onwards. So both me and my student went ahead to present our work on this, project addressing the molecular and the immunological investigation of leishmaniasis patient from the unusual co-endemic focus of cutaneous and the VL disease in Himachal Pradesh. And to my despair, most of the contemporary groups, the big groups working in leishmaniasis in India, sort of didn't give much attention or interest, in our work. But then there was Greg from Canada. He had, he was working on a similar thing. He had seen a similar, sort of phenomena in a nearby country, Sri Lanka. So it really interested me and really took our data, in a serious mode. And since then we have taken up this project in very nicely. In short, I would say, if we get into the WHO site, even some of the standard papers where the epidemiology of leishmaniasis is being mapped on India, if we get into both cutaneous and the visceral leishmaniasis, Himachal is nowhere. Till date, it is nowhere on the map. But then through our work, one of the review published by my student, we could place Himachal as one of the newer co-endemic area with respect to this disease. And we have come up with some of the recent papers where we have molecularly characterized the parasite isolates from this region, and we say that they are like intraspecies intraspecies hybrids, and there's a changing disease scenario in India, such that a novel atypical leishmaniasis pattern is coming up in India, which becomes important in the current ongoing elimination program of the policy makers in India in concert with WHO. And we really want to take, our work forward and sort of communicate with the policy makers to get things on board with these newer phenomena going in context of the disease. I had for the funding part, I had applied, this project earlier to ICMR. They approved it, but then due to fund crunch, they never, released the money. I applied to DST ECR scheme. They sort of rejected it, but finally I got, the project recently sanctioned in a collaborative research program through ICGB research grant scheme from Trieste, Italy. And I have collaborated from Nepal and Canada on this. So it's really coming up very nicely. We have some good papers on the parasite aspect. Definitely we are also looking into the immunological profiles of the atypical lish patients from the region. And definitely my focus is like the immunology, the T cell, that really fascinates me. And I didn't really want to go off focus, because the leishmania work really put me into a lot of molecular stuff, the whole genome sequencing, which was a great learning experience, is a great learning experience for me, because I didn't have expertise on working on human samples and the molecular assays and all those. Me and my student together sort of standardized them and went ahead with it. The other project which came through, a master's student. So she is Shivani. She wanted to do a project dissertation with me back in Himachal, and she was interested in cancer. So what I could offer her, keeping my interest intact, is that cancer I don't work on right now, I told her, but psoriasis is something. If it is psoriasis, it's a skin autoimmune disease. So having typical, skin lesions, if they are persisting, they can get in, transformed into skin cancer. So I offered her that opportunity, and Shivani really, project nucleated it as a master's thesis, and later on it became the base, to apply and get it sanctioned. And now the project is being taken up in a full-fledged fashion as a PhD project by Miss Priyanka Matan in my lab, my second PhD student. So with this kind of stuff going around, I was always working, with my students, cheering up with them whenever they were, recognized for their work, standing beside my students, never getting apprehensive about, oh, I'm, presenting a poster along with my student. I was completely comfortable, as I was in the process of creating a niche. I'm still in the process, of creating a niche for myself. So I have just put up, the quote from E.M. Kelly in a bit modified fashion, that keeping science leadership into context, we cannot just sit and be a leader. The very concept of leader, I'm a bit uncomfortable with, and I would rather believe in using the phrases like, let's go, let's understand, let's do it, let's solve it, let's improve it, let's start it, let's finish it, and let's celebrate it. So that's the science leadership spirit I'm trying to follow. Apart from this, the other component, as I myself is fascinated by the branch of immunology right from the beginning, I like to spread it around among the students, especially the school kids, and I've initiated this through my efforts, through being a member of IIS, where I'm trying to organize the World Immunology Day and other kind of seminars and lectures where school students will be put to think about as to how immunology is important in day-to-day life and how a possible career can be built out of it. So basically I'm putting out my research peripherals and integrating it into the teaching learning process. And this is one book which I came across as I was preparing, for a lecture for the school kids. It's really difficult, to get at that level and try to, disseminate the right kind of concepts. So I would really, among the participants, if there are school-going students, even the graduates, I would really recommend, you should just go through this book. It has beautifully illustrated the different concepts about the amazing immune system we are having. And at the end, the take-home message I would give is that specifically as a female science personnel, I would say you need to hang on. We cannot afford to quit. That isn't an option. And we need to inculcate the childlike attitude. We need to maintain it to learn. Peer group learning, from learning from mentors, your immediate surroundings rarely take you far. So from my personal experience, I can say that you got to assimilate, we got to assimilate actually good practices, and we need to put them to work. We have to work out from our comfort zone. We need to take time to nucleate and materialize the newer ideas. We need to have a timeline, but definitely we need not hurry up things. We definitely need benchmarks for quality control. We need to focus on our work. Rest, definitely, all is peripheral. It works differently for each one of us, and we need not have any comparative yardstick with us, because that will really make us unhappy about the whole thing. And we have one life as on, got to be happy and satisfying one. And specifically for me and the young science leaders there out, it's just the beginning. We have really miles to go before we sit or sleep. Yeah, thank you so much. I would end here and would really like to take up questions.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Manju. Could you please exit your window, presentation window?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Nitin, you can start.
Yeah. So, thank you, Dr. Manju Jain, for your interesting and this inspiring talk. I must, mainly female researcher will learn a lot from this presentation or your talk. Especially, I like the way you gave respect to your family members and especially, your teachers. And for that, I would like to say that one slok in Sanskrita, Prerakah Suchaka Shveva Vachako Darshakasta Shikshako Bodhaka Shveva Shadate Guruvah Smrata. So the one who contribute your life in any positive way, they all are teachers. And I think you have given a respect to your teachers, which is very interesting. Another thing, the way you discuss the laboratory work culture, which is very important as a science leader, and your journey starting from research scientist to assistant professor in Himachal Pradesh to DST SERB scientist at Central University Punjab, and finally to the assistant professor at Central University of Punjab. So I'm sure that most of the female researcher will inspire from your this talk. So thank you so much for your this talk, and over to you, Dr. Felix.
Yeah, Dr. Manju, it was absolutely fabulous. Yeah, I would like to add that, Dr. Nitin's point that male, female, or irrespective of gender, it is really, your message is amazing, really amazing. Especially, I like your research current interest focuses on the neglected tropical diseases as well, on leishmaniasis, and why you did that work in Himachal. That actually pondered me a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. He said 7 sins. It's most important sins. One of the sin that he said is the science without humanity. And of course, the science have to look at our local social problems. And people, my observation is that people who are coming back from the abroad, they're coming with the postdoc research, and they kind of continue that same spirit and the same kind of topic, whatever they have been doing abroad. And usually the foreign postdoc tenure or foreign research things are not really concentrated on the tropical diseases, and that's why it's all neglected. And I must appreciate that you're actually looking after finishing your postdoc tenure, and now after coming back home in India, you're actually working at the local problems that we Indians are facing. We really need inspiring young leaders like you, Dr. Manju. I'm really, really happy about it. And you also said that the childlike curiosity, the importance of the curiosity, never lose your curiosity. That's what Einstein said. That's amazing. I totally agree with that point as well. And of course, comparative yardstick that alone will solve a lot of distress, mental distress and psychological problems with young investigators as well as the PhD scholars. We are seeing that day by day. Recently also, it's kind of like I became so sad to read that the sad story of that female student in an IIT. She
Yes.
committed suicide because of the distress, mental distress, and IIT professor as well, and Ames too. Recently, both of them are young men, and in Princeton graduate. Recently, he committed suicide in IIT Kanpur. So mental distress is everywhere, and I think this comparison with others, I think that is one of the main reason for all these problems. So yeah, I totally, yeah, the points are really amazing. So so let me start this discussion with a simple question on because you are from immunobiology. So what is your suggestions on the students to choose this topic on immunology? Which are the institutes will you recommend here in India for doing? Let us start with what kind of BSc would you like to offer? And if the student, if a +2 student would like to pursue the career in immunology, so what kind of BSc degree he or she should target, and for the masters and PhD, where to go for the higher studies? So yeah, you can start the discussion.
Definitely, immunology is a very interesting discipline per se, and I would say, in present context, it's the interdisciplinary stuff that works around, right? And as such, to my knowledge, there isn't any dedicated immunology course after schooling, the BSc immunology or something like that. But definitely, almost always in any basic science course or different, like microbiology, biochemistry, we do have immunology as one of the major subject, because we have biochemistry, we have the cellular aspect of immunology, so it is being covered up in different contexts. uh, Masters also, there isn't any dedicated masters immunology program, but definitely it's being taken up in a bigger fashion as part of the whole curriculum. And I would say, as a part of Indian Immunological Society, the committee as such is thinking about sort of floating an idea about having a full-fledged master's immunology course. So that kind of thought process is ongoing, and maybe in coming few years it will get materialized. And immunology, I would say, so you can take up different routes to get into the subject. As you can see my story, I was sort of always fascinated by this subject, and there were options which were pulling me back, or away from it. But then I made constant efforts to be in and around immunology, and finally, I still feel that I'm trying to get into that direction. So that's how things work in the long term. We need to have a long term perspective to it. So we just have to show our inclination while we are choosing stuff. Some of the institutes like you are talking about, definitely for the PhD, I would say, masters, there is no dedicated program. We have National Institute of Immunology, definitely. As per the dedicated institutes also for immunology, I don't see much around, but definitely in different good institutions, it's a mixed culture lab. Like in JNU, we have some labs in ICGB, in CCMB, in the INSTEM. There are people working on the immunological, perspective of different projects, different research problems. So there is not a clear cut, cascade to that. Okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then you get into immunology.
Okay, over to Dr. Nitin.
So we have a question from one of the participants, Soumya Ranjan. He's asking, is there any stem cell based therapeutic approach against cancer?
Definitely, it's one of the very prominent area, research area, where people are trying to get into, get hold of the stem like cells in context of different cancers. Like in MD Anderson itself, my near neighbor lab was sort of, they will induce cancer, they will sort the cells with using markers, stem cell like markers. But the research field where it is sort of sticking, according to me, is stuck up, according to me, is to get the whole list of those stem cell like markers to sort of figure out the right cancer stem cell, and then go about for the therapy. Definitely a lot of work is going towards, when we talk of anti-cancer agents, there are groups which are focusing on targeting the cancer stem cells as such. They say, okay, you target the roots and the tree won't grow, something like that. So a lot of efforts are going in that direction, but then there are different school of thought. Some people think they are very much, there and it will work out. But then there is a group of people who just don't believe in this concept of cancer stem cells. So that's how science progresses.
Thank you, Dr. Manju. Over to you, Dr. Felix.
Yeah, so I will also pick up his second question, same person's.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Dr. Felix, unmute yourself. I think there is some technical glitch, so I will take the questions. It is again from the Soumya Ranjan. He's asking if the lab based on one's interest is not good in terms of research atmosphere and cooperative environment, but another lab is good in these terms, which is not based on his interest, then which one to choose?
Yeah, it's a tricky question, right?
Yeah.
Because we would definitely want, a combination of both. I think we need to pursue our interest as per the area. That is for sure very, very important. Rest the environment, I don't think anybody can just be forcefully stuck. Somebody can keep you, stuck at a particular position. You can always try to venture out and maybe, find an alternative in the same area which interests you. The other option definitely can be just focus on your work. Nothing else should be deviating you. So your work sooner or later will speak for you. And yes, yeah, I need to add up. PhD is just the initial training, I would say, the starting training. When PhD students, they are doing their work, they think it's the end of the world, this has gone wrong. It means rest of their life is stuck up. But it doesn't work like that. Few months here and there will not really matter in the long term. It's not going to matter. Even I was like, I would think the way students are thinking at that, vulnerable, position. But definitely, it's a long way to go if you want to pursue science as a career. You need not worry about and be mentally strong about it and pursue your interest with passion. That is really important.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Manju. Over to you, Dr. Felix. Okay, I think again there is some issue. So the next question is from Tanisha Goyal. She is asking, what is the impact of your graduation from Delhi University in pursuing a research career?
So could you please tell the name again?
Tanisha Goyal.
So Tanisha, you focus on the BSc part. You focus on the master's part also. How it worked out. I completed my master's from one of the university that just started. So I don't think the place would matter. Your your dedication and your motivation towards doing a particular thing will, but definitely the place will not matter. I remember in my master's time, we were setting up the laboratories, the department. We were cleaning up the benches that time, and most of the professors teaching us were from outside. And as a student, what I would do is, because I had that kind of exposure from Delhi University, I left a seat in master's DU microbiology because of whatever happened at that time. So I would pick up syllabus from DU. I would pick up syllabus from some of the good universities, and I'll try to see how the CBT where I was actually pursuing fits in. Isn't that I'm missing on something? So we would not really rely on teachers, and I could clear my net in first go. In fact, I was among top 20, eligible for the SPM fellowship. I had to travel to Calcutta, so I didn't, because I didn't want to bother my family again. They were like, always this girl is coming up, with something or the other. So I disturbed them minimum, keeping the point that, yeah, I go to the next step. So doing from DU or the Central University of Punjab or Haryana or Rajasthan will not really matter at all, let me tell you.
Thank you, Dr. Manju. I completely agree with you. And even I did my graduation and post-graduation from ordinary college. And then I did my PhD from CSR lab. And now I'm working at a very renowned institute, ICT, Institute of Chemical Technology. So it doesn't matter from where you study, but your vision and your goal is important where you want to reach.
And
So,
I will tell you, since our master's program started late because of all the leftover students were there, and they were all good. Some of, I mean, I have some good friends. They are really doing great in research and in their career. But the life situations made them to get into Allahabad. Our first batch was a special batch, so we appeared for net. So the session was a little bit delayed there because we started late. By the time many of us had, out of 11, 9 cleared net, nine students out of 11. And then I applied to JNU and all that. I got into JNU CBT with Professor Bhatnagar. Actually, he was interested in taking me. But then I was inclined towards immunology. It would be happening in my mind. I want to join NII, the research institute would offer me better thing than a university. I didn't join him. So again, when I completed my master's, I gave some entrance exams. Again, I qualified JNU through that, written all India exam, and I got into SLS. Then that was my destiny. But I tried. I took, risks towards what I want to do.
okay. Over to you, Dr. Felix.
Yeah, actually, my internet is really flaky again today because we have a storm just passed. Dr. Manju is also living here only, I know that. Yeah. Now, coming to, because Manju, you were saying about the peer group learning. You emphasized on your talk the importance of the peer group. And now, many of our listeners today in the YSL series are young teachers and young faculties, and especially the postdoc who are returning from abroad and starting a career in teaching. So what would you advise them to foster the peer group learning in the classroom as well as in the lab, in the research lab?
Definitely, that's very, very important. So I, apart from the subject content, I really need to sort of give the teaching learning activities, say in terms of groups. And I always try to tell to my students, a few marks here and there is not going to matter in the long term. You need to have the right kind of concepts with you, and get hold of some base book with you, and you can always share. I remember during my graduation time, we had, we were lacking on the required number of books. We used to travel by bus and get book from, from a different location altogether. So, and it really builds a lot of, a peer group affinity and positivity, really goes long way. And these are the people who will hear, and to all your bad stories, and you will have a shoulder of those very people when you want to cry. That's very, very important. So pseudo competition is to be avoided. You need to evolve together. You need to help each other. So that spirit has to be there. Very, very important. And even among young, the PIs, definitely we need to be interacting more and, sort of building up interdisciplinary projects and approaches. We are not self-sufficient on our own, definitely. And we need a very open-minded, intention to do that.
On digressing, from the topic, because you have already shown some pictures of beautiful books, the popular science books and science communication is very important, especially the Japanese Society of Thymus, I guess, Thymus Research. They have released fantastic books on that line. But unfortunately, the trend is missing here in India. I'm from a rural background in a Malayalam medium. Of course, in Kerala, we have got lots of this popular science movement and popular science books. But the case is very different in Hindi medium, I guess. Probably Dr. Nitin can add on. And recently I was in Germany, and in my PhD time in Japan as well. Japanese have this manga. Manga is a cartoon books, and there's several manga which is only for the science. just for the science communication. They are actually inculcating that for the kids in school. And in Germany and France, especially in France, I can say a lot of books are there for the kids, targeted to the kids, cartoons in the science. So somehow there is kind of missing here. That scene is not here. I think we really have to focus on that line. Can you throw some light on that? Yeah.
Yeah, so to be very honest, the WID thing which I showed, I've just sort of got into it. I haven't taken it up, in a big way, but definitely in near future, I have plans to get it, make it, into a bigger scene. And definitely this YSL series and the SLW workshop has really, instigated and motivated me towards that. So I'll be getting more into it. And in fact, I'm planning to say we have the YSL mentor stuff going on. So maybe we can just pull on the right kind of person who can do the right kind of illustrations. So we have to start it somewhere. I'm thinking on those lines, So let's see how.
Fantastic. That's really good. Very good approach. Over to you, Nitin.
Okay, so the next question is from Sachin Rajagopalan. He's asking, ma'am, as you said, you were turned down for a grant or the money was not released. How did you manage to keep yourself focused at that time?
Yeah, I had like that self conviction that we are doing, carrying out a good project actually. And right from, applying the grant to getting a, affirmation from the funding agency itself, kills almost 1.5 year, sometimes more. So listening the positive decision, and then, after a few months, people are saying, we have fund crunch and we cannot really, support you, was a bit disheartening for me. But we didn't, stop at our work front. We carried on. Our work was recognized at international platforms. My student got some of the, awards from like FEMS Journal, the PNTs and all. So that was really encouraging. I would tell a small incident. Like my student went to Italy, Trieste, in one of the conferences to present her work. And the organizers there told her, gave her the feedback, it's good work and you should be applying for a grant here. That is how I got to know about CRP. I applied and I got, and ours is the project is tagged as 01 India. It is the first project in that category. So I was really happy at the end of the thing. Almost, we have carried out 50% of the work, but that would really help me because I was, shuffling caps from the other project. I was trying to manage things and, make things work. I was managing 2 projects while I had just 1 project sanctioned. But I think in the long term, things do work out if you believe, you are on the right track and doing the right kind of work.
Okay, I will pick a question from Sunil Pawar. He's asking, hi, ma'am, I'm a student of microbiology. I have difficulty in studying immunology. Give some tips to overcome. So maybe you can also say some textbook on immunology. So as per my suggestion, Sunil, it would be Essential Immunology by Reut. I'm not sure, is it still the best textbook available? Yes, some recommendations?
It is BSc Microbiology or Masters?
He said that he didn't specify anything. I'm a student of microbiology.
So I would say, the situation what you are facing, even I had the same feelings. So I completely resonate with you. I was fascinated about immunology, so I would read. I would not understand. Now, after years, on this path, when I read the same books in order to prepare myself for the teaching, activities, I understand things in a better and from a different perspective altogether. So that's perfectly fine. I think you should just go ahead and just try to get more into it and read. QB, I like QB. Then Janeway is another good book I really like. These are the 2 books I'm getting deep into actually. QB and Immunobiology by Janeway. And they have, these CDs also these days, along with the book. So that can be really, an easy way to get into things. So now you have many more, you have beautiful, YouTube videos from some of the great immunologists. So you can just listen to them. I do it still. To teach, you have to learn a lot before you get into a classroom. So that's how it had, and that's a perfectly normal phenomena which is happening to you. So don't worry about it. Just continue with your things.
Yes. I would like to add that because you said about the YouTube videos, so one of my favorite YouTuber. I mean, like he's not a YouTuber, but of course Satyajit Ray, right?
Yes.
His many of his talks are there in the
So
internet,
even I,
and yeah, he's a great science communication. I'm his big fan.
yes,
Yes,
same
okay.
here, same here. So I happened to listen to him during my PhD days, and the way he would deliver the subtle things, it really fascinated me. In fact, just after the talk, I approached him and I tried to, give up my problems. Okay, this is how things are working, and indirectly he resolved all my stuff. And in fact, I got him at Central University of Punjab also. I really wanted him to come and give a talk, and definitely maybe more future associations will be there with him. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Nitin. Yes.
Yeah. So the next question is from Ravi Kumar. He's asking, what is the extent of cancer research with marine symbiotic microbes, especially with sponge microbiome?
I think Dr. Felix can answer that better.
Yeah, well, I'm also not exactly into that because the topic is not exactly on the cancer, right? So this is more on immunology. So of course there are studies on those lines as well. The symbiotic microbes. I mean, if you look up in the internet, there are lots of papers on those lines. But the point is that how good is the activity?
So
So
people are
what is
actually
basically
trying, yeah.
yes,
People are really trying, the extracts,
yes,
the components of
extracts.
different animals and plants, into that direction. In fact, in my many of the anti-leishmanial are being tried as anti-cancerous and other way around. But somehow, there were, times when, researchers from other areas would approach me. Okay, we want to, work out the anti-leishmanial stuff. Somehow it doesn't fascinate me much, somehow, because I am more into, the mechanism part of the things, because
Yeah.
it's a screening thing you have to do. So in
Mhm.
our university also, in Department of Pharmaceutical, like one faculty approached, and I was like, okay, definitely I'll help you out. But then the anti-leishmanial part is just the preliminary stuff. I would be interested more in deeper into how it works, to kill the stuff and the basic biology and all that.
And Ravi Kumar, there is a tremendous shift these days from bioactivity based, that is kind of old thing. Now the thing is that we are simply characterizing the entire proteins, for example, with multitoph, and we are characterizing the protein structure. And then in silico, that is basically a combinatorial chemistry based docking for finding the drug candidates. So that kind of work is actually getting a lot more momentum rather than simply randomly screening for the bioactivity because it's really tough. I mean, you can find some activity, but to get that, translate that into clinical sphere, it's not that easy. So that is what is happening. So now let me pick one next question here. uh, Vijay Lakshmi is asking a question. Plants help to enhance the immunity. Is this concept scientific or is it just a pseudoscience? I mean, I just want to add on to it because I'm seeing lots of advertisement now flooding in the social media. For example, Modern is one brand of bread, and they have recently released the Modern bread that it's some immunity boosters for the fighting against the COVID-19. I mean, COVID-19 they didn't add on, but still there are so many products are coming up. The immune boosters for fighting against COVID-19. So, what is your take on this? This is
So,
asked by Vijay Lakshmi.
so is the plant products she's talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there are ample number of studies which are going in that direction where, you talk of using the plant components as immunoboosters or immune modulators actually. And uh, one sub branch of that will be like nutraceuticals, we say, using plant products into therapeutics by, enhancing the immunity. And definitely, but it would have a generalized, a generalized thing. People really need to, characterize the cell and the molecule specific mechanism, the way it works. So generally, in this area, I find people, I mean, to my understanding, the way I know it, they would really, okay, the immunity was enhanced or decreased, but there are just some 3-4 parameters they would use, and sort of try to get away with the publication out of it. But then you have to hunt deep inside it to get, into the activity component of that plant part and see uh, the molecular level interactions, and try to logically put it logically the logical analysis of that. And like at the outright itself, I told you, stuff like this sort of don't appeal me much, but definitely a lot of work is going on. There are positive effects like ginseng and all, the tea and all. So they say anti-aging, immune boosters, so people take, there are positive effects definitely, but then we really don't know, the path, the molecule, the way it's happening. And that is the component that which interests me more, rather than, otherwise I feel, lost in the entire ocean. That's the kind of feeling I get. But definitely people, and for the fast pipelining of the, useful components against sort of any disease, or to, boost up the immunity, people do. So there are different approaches, the randomized screening and the, rationalized screening. So those kind of works are ongoing, definitely.
So I will add on to that. Yes, algae also have a certain bioactive compounds like fibers, antioxidants, vitamins. So they also have a proven applications and role in the boosting the immunity.
Okay, Dr. Nitin, you can continue with your next question.
So this is my own question. So I just want to know, Dr. Manju, how you manage your frustration or failures, because many a times we submit proposals and publications, and we didn't get the way we want. So can you elaborate something on that?
So there are two things. On a lighter note, I would say my second half is in the same field, so I will just talk a lot with him, bother him a lot. And second thing is, since like through my talk, I tried to put up this thing, the good part, the virtues. You have to go along with that, and I derive a lot of pleasure out of whatever little work I do. So I'm really not looking for the quantity. I just enjoy my work. So then rest becomes periphery for me. And I do wait for the right time when I build up the story good enough, so that I can again reapply and get the things done, maybe in a bigger way, right? So
Okay.
it actually gives me.
Abhijit is asking a question. Sorry. Yeah, Abhijit is asking the next question. We have only very limited. I mean, it's already too late. So, can you make it very brief, the question, so we can entertain a bit more questions? Abhijit is asking a question: is there any stem cell therapy for treatment of autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis? Autoimmune is really difficult. So, can you throw some light on this?
As of now, I'm not aware of any stem cell based, therapy in context of rheumatoid arthritis, but definitely, the antibody based sort of, because in rheumatoid arthritis, definitely, that one of the basic thing is like self-attacking auto-antibodies are being generated, and so those kind of stuff. And majorly in these different kind of diseases, the way immune molecules are being used in therapy, I believe it gives more of a transient relief. Actually, it doesn't cure the thing. That is really important.
Nitin, yes.
Yeah. So the next question is from Sunil Pawar. He's asking, I am a BSc microbiology student. Please tell me how to pursue MSc from abroad and what is the procedure to get into it?
Okay. So you have to, clear the uh, the exam, to get onto the foreign country. That is, it's getting out of my mind. Like to get into
GRE, yeah, GRE or CAT.
Yeah, you have to prepare
Yes.
the GRE and CAT, and definitely once you are there, you apply in different universities. You have to develop a SOP for yourself. Convince the person there with whom you would be like to carry out your dissertation project work, as an exposure. Definitely, a lot of options are there. You just have to be passionate about, how you have to do things like, as per my thing, in a peer group, in masters. When I was pursuing my masters, I had my juniors, they were preparing for JRE all the time. Having flashcards and also you really have to work hard towards that goal. Even like in JP, when I was there, some of the students I have, mentored for the project works, they are really into good positions abroad. They pursued their MS in the area. Like one girl wanted to do in cancer. She is right now research assistant. After completing her MS, she is now into a research assistant post. So she is gaining experience, and she is giving the kind of input and the time to get in the direction she wants for herself. So definitely, you have to be on a lookout. And
Yeah.
Over to you, Dr.
So
Felix.
Sunil, I can also add on to your Sunil's question that if I won't recommend going abroad for the masters. For the PhD, yes, there are so many options are available for the masters. We have very good institutes here. Why you want to go abroad for that? And more than that, for the masters, I get so many calls, even from the parents of the kids, and they're saying that they want to send their kids to New Zealand and Australia, and the cost is around 3.5 crore to 4 crore. And is it really worth? I always said, no, it is not at all worth. An MSc from Australia and MSc from India, it is nothing like it's too advantage to go to the Australia for an MSc. No, but a PhD might be, it matters. Again, nowadays, the Indian institutes are getting much, much better day by day.
yeah,
So I will never recommend anybody to spend money and going abroad for study. If you're getting a scholarship, go for that. Otherwise, please don't spend money. You're simply wasting your money. Yeah. So, because the time is now getting limited, I can just take one last question here. The question is by Muhila, is asking, I'm doing IMSc Life Sciences now. I'm not understanding what is this IMSc, maybe MSc Life Science. Is there any possibility that I can work under you for the virtual internship? So right now she want to work with you for virtual internship.
Direct approach.
Definitely, you are most welcome, because whatever 13 students were there in my Excel sheet, only 3 turned up yesterday. So I'm definitely open, and I hope I can, positively contribute towards making your things better.
Very good. So Muhilla BM, so please email me. I will be making you in touch with Dr. Manju, so you can start your internship sooner. And over to Dr. Nitin.
Okay, so we conclude our session here. It was very interesting and enlightening talk by Dr. Manju. Thank you so much once again. And I hope all the participants have enjoyed thoroughly. Over to you, Dr. Felix.
Yeah, Dr. Manju, thank you so much. It was really amazing talk and inspiring and entertaining as well. You threw light on so many different topics. So thank you so much, Dr. Manju, for this.
Same here,
and my best wishes too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my best wishes for your internship too, and for the whoever is coming with you.
I hope I do a good job. Yeah, I'll try my best.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Nitin, for this as well. So it's amazing. You also added on many points on the discussions to move forward. Thanks, both of you.
Thank you, Dr. Felix. Bye.
Bye-bye. And I would like to announce our next program in YSL series is today at 4:30. Dr. Charulata from NISCARE, CSIR NISCARE from New Delhi, she is going to talk on her journey as a science leader. So please stay tuned at 4:30 today over the tea. So till then, goodbye.